Hey everyone, Mount Rudmore here, and I'm back to talk about Big Brother. Uh, I have not done a stream about BB24 in over a week now. I was my last one was right after Taylor won HOH, won the wall comp. I'm like, this is going to be the greatest week. Now, I was already going to basically take a break because I went on vacation over the weekend, but I'm just like, maybe I'll find a way to work in a stream while I'm away, but I really couldn't. And on top of that, just that week was so messy. It was so stressful. It's like it it did not need to be that stressful. I should have been happy all week long. And don't get me wrong, I was very happy that Taylor was HOH. I was happy that she was safe, but it was a mess. Just between Joseph volunteering himself as a replacement nominee. I'm like, dude, you are doing this pawn thing backwards. So between that and then Kyle didn't end up using the veto, and then just the onslaught of the grossest showmance I have ever seen on Big Brother. I had to bail. I just I couldn't, and I needed my vacation only lasted from Saturday to Monday, but I'm like my vacation from Big Brother is going to be ongoing. Just it was so agonizing. Why did Kyle have to win the veto? Why could no other leftovers beside Taylor and Kyle have been picked for the veto? Like, just give me some hope. Like, Monty or Turner. That would have either of them winning. That would have Taylor would have been able to have more control of the week because they would have done what she wanted. If she wanted to go for Alyssa, one of them would have used the veto, and Alyssa would have gone up. But Kyle was just so stubborn and so ridiculous, and just I can't really view his gameplay as anything other than ruining his game this past week with what he did. Like, he's making everyone in the leftovers look at him funny. But I mean, this twist may actually end up benefiting him because he's on the side of a non-leftover HOH, and I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. By the way, hello to my first viewer. I'm just gonna jump right ahead to last night's episode, an unnecessary 2-hour episode. And oh boy, what I don't get is that this episode, like this week, has had enough insanity that they could have actually made a good 2-hour episode out of it. But it just dragged so long. Like there were too many punishment segments. Like yeah, obviously you got to show them a little bit. Although for whatever reason they didn't show Bailey's punishment in BB All Stars, where she had to do some kind of whole fitness regimen in the backyard. They didn't show any of it, and like what she did was like pretty impressive. And like I know that if I had to do what Bailey did, I would have had a heart attack and died. Okay, so I think she deserved some screen time for that. So the fact that Bailey wasn't shown doing her thing back in BB22, and we we got multiple segments of Indy and Terrence's punishments, which don't get me wrong, were kind of amusing at first, but they just went on too long. Like I feel like they should have spent like 2 minutes each on both of them, and still devoted the rest of this 2-hour episode to showing the crazy game talk. But long story short, Indy and Terrence remained on the block. Terrence was Taylor's initial target, but the others talked her into going for Indy, and Indy was evicted 7-1. Michael was the only person to cast a sympathy vote. And then they did an HOH comp, which is the classic knockout style, where it's like it's two people going head to head, and then whoever wins the round gets to pick the next two to compete. And like historically, that's been a pretty good way to make sure that the the majority alliance is able to screw over the other side. Like last year when they did it, the last six people remaining in this game were the cookouts. So that worked out pretty well for them. Did not work out so well this time because the two HOHs were Michael and Terence. Terence won HOH right as the house splits in half. Oh gosh, it's a nightmare and a half. Anyway, um, I decided that since I didn't really do a one of my typical streams about this past week, what I did was I just wrote some notes about each contestant remaining in the house and my thoughts on their game. And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna give my thoughts on everybody before I move on to what happened after the episode. So I'm just gonna go alphabetically. So we're gonna start with Alyssa, and it's like I said before, the showmance has completely derailed the show. Okay, Kyle was playing really well, and ever since she got with him, he has not been playing well. In fact, he's been playing a really, really not okay game. What I don't get about Alyssa is that she is a self-proclaimed super fan of the show, but she has nothing even remotely resembling game sense. It's all about Kyle. It's all about a showmance. Like she's not here for the money, so she shouldn't still be here. And like she really should have left by now. There are two things that should have taken her out by now. So the first thing was kind of the obvious one. On Monty's HOH, um, the the plan ended up becoming to take out Alyssa. Like he nominated Alyssa in Indy. Initially, he was like, "I'll probably backdoor somebody," but then they talked about it, and even Kyle talked about it and was like, "Maybe we should go for Alyssa right now." But then, like that was their target. But then Smelvis got paranoid about Nicole's safety, well, about his and Nicole's position in the house. So he gets it in his head. I'll use the veto and put Nicole up because she will go up with Taylor, and we have the votes to get Taylor out. So yeah, that week Alyssa was saved by Smelvis being an idiot. But something that not a lot of people have talked about, going back to week one and the backstage twist. Um, so what I've gathered, the way it was going to work was that the House guests were going to vote one of the actual nominees out, Taylor or Terence, and it probably would have been Taylor. And then one of the backstage people would be voted out. Not Brittany, because America voted Brittany safety. So it would have been Alyssa or Paloma. And I really think that Paloma had built stronger relationships in that house. So I think Alyssa would have been um, voted out between the two of them. And then Taylor and Alyssa would have had to compete against each other in that competition that ended up being part one of the HOH. And Taylor and Alyssa did actually end up going head to head for the HOH part when they repurposed it. And Taylor beat Alyssa. So if that had happened, like as intended, like as part of the backstage twist, and Taylor was voted out of the regular nominees, and Alyssa was voted out by the backstage twist, Taylor would have beaten Alyssa and Alyssa would have been the first one evicted. It is amazing how many things can be traced back to Paloma because her leaving just canceled the whole twist, and yeah, no one was evicted that night, and yeah, so yeah, Alyssa could very well have been gone by now. She just keeps stumbling her way through the game, and it's really irritating. It's like she's not getting any consequences for her terrible gameplay. Next up, we have Brittany, and this week she was doing a lot. Like her and Michael decided we want to play the middle, but Brittany was doing too much. And I remember early on, she got in trouble a lot with like the Girls Alliance because Brittany did have a tendency to talk too much and maybe say things she shouldn't have said. Joining the leftovers really helped because then she finally knew who she could actually trust to talk game with. But this week it was almost like that early habit of talking too much was coming back. And it's just with how much she's been flip flopping. I'll admit, it's like I'm not really sure where her loyalty lies. Like she says that she wants a final three with Taylor and Michael, and then she's giving game advice to Alyssa, which admittedly is the first like good game advice Alyssa's gotten in a while because she doesn't talk game with Kyle. All she does is kiss him. Like they start talking game. Oh, we're gonna start making out now. Either one of them starts talking about being unsure of them being a couple. Hey, let's make out now. I still went back to Alyssa. That's how mad I am at Alyssa. Just how much she's ruining this whole thing. So I'm really just sort of having a wait and see attitude with Brittany, just to see you know what happens. I mean, I feel like this week with where she ended up as a result of the twist, I think we might start to see one way or the other where her loyalties lie. Um, Next up is Jasmine, and she is so lucky that Taylor won that HOH. Any other leftover, Jasmine would have been the target. No questions asked. I mean, Taylor had a good reason for not wanting to target her. She's like, I don't want to put up a black woman because like she and Jasmine are the only black women left in the house. And I get that. And a lot of people were like, well, why does she have to play a race game? And it's like she nominated Indy and Terence, the Brazilian and the black man. So, it's like it's like black woman specifically was Taylor's thing. But yeah, Jasmine was really lucky that that happened. And when I heard that the house was going to be splitting, I'm just thinking like, Jasmine, if you don't win anything, you are in trouble. And with where she ended up, I still think that. Uh, Next up, Joseph. And I talked about this earlier when him volunteering himself as a replacement nominee was stupid. And it was like he's overplaying. I was rooting for him, and I still kind of am. Like I don't dislike him now, but he's also doing too much, and he's too openly comfortable with the other side of the house, and like it's making the leftovers start to look at him like, you know, it seems like you're fishing for jury votes here, and yeah, I think that could end up working against him sooner rather than later. But you know, as far as him and Taylor, the fomance, which they've kind of started to move away from, like I would much rather see this showmance than than Alyssa and Kyle, that's for sure. And I do like him and Taylor together, and I would like to see them become a couple, but maybe after the game. Let's get through the rest of the season, and then afterwards we can go from there. I think Joseph and Taylor are smart enough that they're able to keep game and personal relationship separate without taking it to without being too emotional about it because oh my God, I feel like I've gone back to Alyssa every time, but anytime Alyssa and Kyle start to have some game questions with each other, then they just get really emotional and they're not sure anymore. But as far as Joseph and Taylor, I I mean, I've been saying I don't mind a good showmance. It has to be good, and I think Joseph and Taylor would be a good one because I think they're both smart. They're both very good at positioning themselves. Like Taylor was public enemy number one at first, and Joseph was a non-entity, and they've both really moved themselves up to a pretty good position. Although, uh, again, we'll talk about where Joseph is now as a result of the split. Next up, well, I'm sure she's going to come up again, but next up is Kyle. He tanked his own game this week. Okay, he did. You know, both Indy especially, but I think also to an extent Terence expected him to use the veto to save either one of them. So when he didn't, it definitely made Indy mad at him because when Indy left, she straight up blamed Kyle for why she was evicted. Julie asked, "Who do you hold responsible for this?" And Indy said, "Kyle." So that's a jury vote he ain't getting if he makes it that far. And the leftovers are looking at him now like it seems like you're picking your showmance over our alliance. And he was talking all this crap about how I got to do what's better for my game. And I'm just like, making six people mad at you is better for your game? It was stupid. I do have to talk about this. After the veto meeting, when Taylor yelled at him, um, I don't think that was necessary, but I do think it was funny. I mean, it apparently it worked. Like everyone else bought it. Kyle was annoyed by it, and I'm just like, well, now you know how we all feel because we're annoyed with you, and the leftovers are annoyed with you. And he's just talking about how it was so unnecessary. It was unnecessary for you to not use the veto. So, that said, I think Taylor also could have gotten her point across by just like storming off in a huff. I don't know. I thought it was a little a little tacky, but it was funny. So I'm not mad at it. So I was thinking, as far as the split goes, he might survive if he ends up with Alyssa because they'd be nominated for like showmance reasons. Well, they could be nominated for showmance reasons, and it's just like I think he would have a good chance of surviving. His best chance of surviving the split is with her for sure. And now I think we should talk about the elephant in the room. And I mean, I've talked about this before, but last night they finally aired it on TV. His fears of a cookout 2.0. He straight up said all the people of color are working together. Now, thinking individual people of color are working together is logical. Because, yes, Monty and Joseph are they're practically a duo. Taylor and Joseph are slowly becoming a duo. And Taylor does have a good relationship with Monty, but it's just Kyle assuming that they're a trio that doesn't make sense. I mean, they get along with each other, don't get me wrong, but like when I think of like a true trio, I think of Taylor, Michael, Brittany. Like they're more of a trio. And on on the other end of the spectrum, Alyssa, Jasmine, Indy are a trio. And also, it's just the fact that, he's worried about this, but the first 4 weeks, the only white person on the block was Pooch. And it was because he volunteered. And Jasmine has made no secret of her dislike for Taylor. Like, Kyle has figured it out by now. Like, there's a reason he brought Taylor into the leftovers and not Jasmine. Like, he straight up said he thought it was ridiculous the way Taylor was being treated in the house. And, like, that included people of color that were treating Taylor this way. Jasmine being the most noticeable. But, like, it was kind of presented in a way that was like, this is his justification. The cookout did this last year, so now we have to be worried about it this year. And I've said this before. How many majority alliances have there been over the years that were all white? I mean, the committee from BB24, or was it the commission? I keep forgetting because I keep trying to block that season out. But it was it was basically the entire top seven. Like technically Enzo was not part of it, but he was close to everybody, and they all were like, "Yeah, let's just bring Enzo to the end because we'll all beat him. He's not a threat." But yeah, the whole top seven that year: Cody, white; Enzo, white; Franzel, white; Christmas, white; Memphis, racist and white; Tyler, white; Danny, white. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't wish watching BB22 on too many people, but I think Kyle should have at least looked that up before he was recruited. Or like after he was recruited and then just done some more research. Because it's obvious he's only seen BB23. And yeah. And like, yes, they did have Michael and Brittany finally starting to show like some pushback on it because a lot of people have been getting on them about it for being like too supportive of it. And I'm just like, privately, they're like, maybe we should try and convince some of the others to go for Kyle because Michael was saying a lot like, let's let them target each other. But, Brittany finally talked to him face to face and said, you really got to think about the optics of this. And, like, just glancing at what the casuals were saying was like, a lot of them were actually starting to feel like Kyle was justified in saying this because Taylor kept saying she doesn't want to nominate a black woman. And, that was something I noticed on Sunday's episode. They showed Taylor saying that like 4 or 5 times. It's like they're really trying to hammer that home. So, like, when the segment about Kyle being worried about all the people of color working together, like showing that segment, like combining it with what Taylor said in her reasons for not nominating Jasmine, it it lost a little bit of the impact it could have had. And they didn't really make it clear that Kyle was thinking this before, well, weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, even. It was, I think it was during Michael's HOH, but it could have been Monty's as well. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, I feel like too many people could have gotten the impression that what Kyle was thinking was justified. But I don't know how anyone could look at him saying that these three specific people, Monty, Taylor, and Joseph, he said all three of them, specifically the three of them, are loud. And I'm just like, you're louder than all three of them. Joseph is like quiet as a church mouse, or at least he was those first couple weeks. Taylor has been very quiet and reserved this whole season because for a lot of it she's really been afraid to open her mouth. And Monty, he's just like Monty has charisma, he has an energy, he has a presence when he's in the room, but he's not loud. He's not quiet, but he's not loud. But yeah, it's just I don't. that that was really that one. I don't see how you can hear Kyle say that Taylor, Monty, and Joseph are loud and not raise your eyebrows a little because that was just that was not okay because he had no reason for it. And if you're gonna say a person of color in that house is loud, then say Jasmine. She's loud. She makes sure of that in her DRs, that's for sure. Hello to my second viewer. Uh, Next person I want to talk about is Michael. Um, he said this during his HOH that he was like kind of jealous that he couldn't play the middle just because he's been forced to win so many times, and like he hasn't had to win as many things as he has. First veto, 100% he had to win. Second veto, he tried to let Taylor win, but then he was like, "All right, we can't let Pooch win, so I gotta go for it." Uh, the third veto that was different because he and Brittany were basically the only two playing. I don't think he had to win HOH per se, his first HOH. Like if Kyle had beaten him, then it might have been okay. Although Smelvis would not have been the target that week. Smelvis would have made it to jury, which wouldn't have been good. And he definitely didn't need to win the veto that week. But Terence threw it to him. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe now that I'm talking about it out loud, I don't know if I don't know. Maybe he's right. Maybe he has kind of been forced to win as much as he has. But he was ranting about how he couldn't really play the middle, but Joseph could. So this week he really started to try playing the middle, and it seems like he's overplaying this week as well, just like Brittany and Joseph. And I hinted at this earlier. He wants the other men of the leftovers to start going for each other because Kyle made him aware. I think it was Kyle, but he became aware that the leftovers started with the other four guys besides Michael. Like they started it as the pound, and then they brought in Michael, Brittany, and Taylor to have the numbers. And Michael's kind of having this mentality of I'm going to try to plant some seeds, make the other members of the leftovers, the other male members of the leftovers, go for each other. And it really does seem like he and Brittany want to move forward with Taylor as a final three. And I hinted at this with Brittany. At least I think I did. That people were freaking out at how into Kyle's alliance they are, but it's like they're they're listening to him, but I don't know if they're really going for it. I feel like if it came down to Kyle and Taylor on the block, I think they vote out Kyle. I do. I really think that. I believe that Michael and Brittany do want Taylor as their third. They I think they all kind of want that to be their final three. Although, admittedly, Taylor and Joseph, they are like they may not be doing the fake showmance anymore, but they they could still take each other far, possibly. So yeah, we'll see if Michael can effectively play the middle going forward. All right. Next up is Monty. Um, he is very level-headed and very loyal, not just to the pound, but to the leftovers as a whole. I think of everyone in the leftovers, Monty is the one who most wants to make sure the leftovers are the final seven, which is another reason Kyle does not really need to be worried about him, at least right now. Is because Monty's so level headed that I was really rooting for him to win one of the HOHs for this house split because I just felt like a Monty HOH right now would just be like a relief. It'd be calm, it'd be chill. We wouldn't have to freak out too much. I mean, his his first HOH was going pretty smoothly. It was like, they had their plans, they talked it over, they weren't like losing their minds about it. But then, of course, Smelvis threw a wrench in the gears and it got a little chaotic, but that's not on Monty. But the worry there I had was that if Kyle is one of the HOHs and Monty is on the same side as him, I think that Kyle could have very well decided, I'm going to take that shot. Monty's going to be my target. I'm going to be the first member of the leftovers to go for a leftover. Taylor, like I said before, her HOH reign was unnecessarily difficult, and it's not her fault. Just I feel like a lot of people were playing so hard that they kind of inadvertently took some of her power away. Like first she wanted Terence, and then she was talked into Indy, and then she wanted Alyssa, and Kyle refused to use the veto. And then there was even talks about possibly making it a tie vote and making Taylor have to decide. And that would have been too much. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen a tie vote on Big Brother, but this was not the time to do it. It's already been messy enough for Taylor, and doing that to her, it would have uh, it would have put too much blood on her hands. That said, if it was a tie, I don't know. Maybe she would have gone back to her original decision of wanting to take out Terrence. She was like, I finally got some of my power back, so I'm using it to take out Terrence right now. But I don't know. Maybe she would have done Indy just to stay in the good graces of her alliance. I don't know. But we don't have to worry about that because it was not a tie vote. Now, she did kind of end the week reasonably well positioned within the leftovers. I'm just like, you know, as long as she's with a leftover that wins HOH, she should be okay. You know, this is the season to not assume anything. But I was cautiously optimistic that if Taylor ended up with a leftover HOH in the split, then we'd be okay. She'd be okay. I mean, I'd be okay watching, but she'd be okay in the game. Although maybe Kyle winning HOH and her being on the same side, possibly she could have been at risk. Next up, Terence. I mean, I've felt this guy as a negative presence in the house for a while now. I think he's very sexist. He's very disrespectful. It's like I always try to root for the oldest contestants because they're always alone. I always have a soft spot for them. But Terrence is just not likable in any way, shape, or form. And I was thinking maybe he should have just stayed the target. Like I was kind of going back and forth as far as him and Indy, but I was like, maybe he just should have stayed the target just so Taylor could have retained some of her initial wishes. And then he won HOH. And oh god, that was a nightmare come true right there. I could not I could not believe it. He was doing so well in that competition. Ugh, how? Taylor was right all along. Terrence should have been the target. Indy would not have won that competition. Indy was always too. She always had her head in the clouds. Terence, he's a bus driver in Chicago. Of course, he's got to be paying attention to traffic in 10 different directions. This was the worst time to have this competition, I swear. And the last one I want to talk about, oh my God, I've been here 36 minutes already. But the last one I want to talk about is Turner. And honestly, I think he is in the best position in the house. And I think he would also have been a great choice to win HOH as a result of the split, especially if he was on the same side as Jasmine. And like, no one really wants to go for him. Like, everyone has their targets, but they're all kind of like, we want to use Turner to help make this happen. And I mean, Turner has ended up in a dream scenario. And a little bit of me is like, you know, Turner does have a win, and he's very well positioned in the house. Why doesn't Kyle view him as a threat? You know, I think it probably would have made sense if Kyle went to Turner and was like, Michael and Monty are the two biggest threats. We got to try to get them out. I think that might have made more sense. It definitely would have been less problematic. That's for sure. But yeah, Turner, he's like the only person I'm not at all worried about in this split. And I wasn't worried whether he won HOH or not. He did not win HOH. Like I said, it was Michael and Terence. But that's okay. Not too worried about Turner. And I had a whole segment here about my thoughts about the episode, but I already kind of covered it all. This is what I wrote. It was way too long. Did not need to be. I mean, it could have been 2 hours, but they just padded it out with so much fluff. Oh, the shout out segment. Julie was like, hey, does anybody want to give a shout out? Or, like, no, does everybody want to give a shout out right now? So that was a whole thing. Like, we didn't need to do that. And like I said, I was glad Kyle's thought process was shown to the casuals, but I don't know if it was enough to make them think that it's that it's kind of problematic because I saw BB Facebook is uh how do I say this delicately? Um BB Facebook is mostly old white people who don't watch the feeds. And last season when the cookout were running everything, a lot of them were saying that the cookout is a racist alliance because they're built based on race. And there's never been an alliance built on race before. And it's just like, first of all, the majority all white alliances, they may not have explicitly said we're targeting all the black people or all the people of color, but this is kind of one of those things where you don't have to say it. Actions speak louder than words. And I feel like the way Kyle's thoughts were presented, I don't think he changed too many minds. And I feel like a lot of people probably understand his thought process. Again, after Taylor said repeatedly she doesn't want to put up a black woman. Um, the eviction, Indy took forever to walk out the door. She had to give a whole speech, and it was like more words than she has said the entire season. And I'm just like, okay, go, go now. You can leave. Go on. I think Kyland left faster last year when he was evicted and and called out Xavier and Brava's nephew to his face. which still ultimate a-hole move. And yeah, I think Indy took even longer to leave than Kylan did. Michael outed the leftovers in his goodbye message to Indy, and I was surprised for sure. But then a lot of people pointed out on Twitter that Josh did this in BB19 and Josh won. So, Michael, he is really trying to he's trying to play all the best parts of all the successful contestants' games. Like Josh is not often put in the pantheon of Big Brother winners, to put it lightly. But I mean, that seemed to be a strategy that worked for him because he won. Well, I don't know how much was Josh winning and how much was just Paul losing, but you know, that's a debate for another day. And I don't want that day to come because, frankly, talking about BB19 kind of triggers me a little bit. Every time I talk about it, every time I bring up BB19 on this stream, I end up triggering myself. But yes, Michael outed the leftovers in his goodbye message to Indy. And I mean that could work in his favor as far as her jury vote, but when the other leftovers start ending up in the jury house and they find out that Michael was talking about it in his goodbye messages, that could turn some of them against him, possibly. So we'll have to see how that goes. Uh, like I said, I was surprised Terence did so well in the competition, especially since he was one of the first two. Like they always start with a random draw, and it was Terence and Brittany. And I do think just about anybody else in that first round with Terence, I think they could have beat him because the first round took the longest. Someone said it took 23 seconds, or as someone on Twitter put it, 2.3 Kyles. Yeah, that was another thing that happened in my absence from streaming. Apparently, Kyle and Alyssa did it, and it took Kyle 10 seconds. Wow. Mm. Anyway, that first round took a long time, but Terrence eventually ended up winning. I saw Brittany squinting the whole time. I'm like, Brittany is like occasionally wearing glasses. I feel like she probably needed them right now. Might have helped. Yeah, I don't know. And like I said before, Terrence winning was not great just because he was Taylor's initial target. And by all accounts, it seemed like Michael was going to get first pick because he got to be HOH of Big Brochella, which was inside the house, and Terrence's HOH of Dire Fest, which is outside. Not gonna lie, the names are pretty great. Dire Fest is great. I think I think that's the best they have nailed this festival theme this season. I'll give them that. But yeah, it seemed like Michael was gonna be able to pick first, and I'm just thinking he needs to ensure that Jasmine and Alyssa are separated. I was thinking that he should pick Jasmine for himself and just ensure Alyssa goes to the other side, and possibly Kyle as well. Because, like, I think Michael's smart enough to know that if Terrence has the option to go for the showmance, then he might take it. Like, it's just kind of like the best chance. I feel like Michael was smart enough to know that. And another reason he should have separated Jasmine and Alyssa was like I said, he can make one his target, the other one can possibly become Terrence's target, and it would show his cards too much if he got neither of them, because then his side of the house would be all leftovers, and he would have to take the shot himself. And of course, he would not want to do that. And he would not want to take both of them because then that's ensuring that Terence is going to take out a leftover. Like by keeping one of Jasmine and Alyssa and sending the other to the other side, it's like I'm getting one, the other side maybe they can get Alyssa. And I was thinking Taylor and Monty are going to be Terrence's targets. Again, further proof that Kyle's Cookout 2.0 fear is bullcrap. Because Terrence's targets would be two of the other black people in the house. Not even Jasmine, the one that we'd all actually like to see leave. And I mean, there was a little bit of me thinking, like, Michael could let Terence get Monty and or Joseph just to let Terence target one of them. Like that crossed my mind. And, you know, Michael could just be like, it was tough to pick. I couldn't get everybody. I wanted to make sure I had Jasmine just so I have a have my own target. And the other side, best of luck to him. So the split ended up actually being pretty good. Michael got Brittany, Taylor, Jasmine, and Monty. And Terence got the showmance, Joseph and Turner. So Taylor and Monty are away from Terence, which is good. Taylor, I think, is in good shape with Michael. I don't think he's gonna take a shot at her. I think he picked Taylor to try to protect her. At least I was thinking, like I put a couple tweets out last night. If Michael does not get Taylor on his side, she is in serious danger. But now I think Taylor's going to be okay. Again, not assuming anything, but it's not bad. And as far as Monty, I I'll admit could go either way here, but I think that with the house splitting really kind of forcing a couple of people's hands, I think that Michael will nominate Monty, but I think he'll still try to take out Jasmine. I feel like something like this is just so messy that you might want to play it safe. And I think it'd probably be in Michael's best interest, and I think he knows this, to just stick with going for Jasmine. And as far as Terrence, his initial target is Joseph. And I'm just like, Terrence, are you high? You have a showmance on your side. You can, well, not guarantee, but make it a pretty good bet that one will leave. Put them both up, and hopefully neither one wins the veto. Then you guarantee one goes. And like you kind of want that on your resume. You split up a showmance. People are like, yeah, they were a duo, and you broke them up. So thank you for doing that. But he's targeting Joseph, and I don't see what the logic is. I think there's a chance that he could be persuaded, possibly, to target the showmance, but I really want Joseph to win the veto this week, or Turner to save Joseph. I just I don't get why Terrence isn't thinking about going for the showmance. It just doesn't make sense to me. But then again, Terrence has not played a good game since he got here, so why would I assume he'd start playing well now? All right. That's all my notes. Time to check the interwebs for any sort of updates. Anything that's gone down since I've been here. And my phone is being slow right now for some reason. Oh, Terence doing his update. I really should have thought that through. I can't compete with Terran. Sorry, unrelated. An unrelated thing I enjoyed. I mean, I imagine they're all probably still asleep right now. It's only 8:23 in the morning over there. So there's probably not a lot that's been going down. But this Counts doesn't like to sleep, so you never can tell. Turner says he's excited about being in the backyard for this whole thing, and honestly, I think Turner is probably going to struggle at least being outside. Yeah, I feel like Turner has probably just slept outside before for fun, like not even in a tent or anything. Not not seeing much at the moment. Try a little longer. Just like I said, I don't see what Terrence's thought process is right now. But Joseph, he's a persuasive guy. So if he can convince Terrence that going for the showmance is the right move, or if Turner can also chime in and say we should go for the showmance, I think I don't know. Maybe they can do it. Yeah. All right. That's about all I got. Thank you for watching, my one viewer. Really appreciate it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. Uh, I'm gonna try to get back to doing these regularly again. Uh, this week, this week's gonna be interesting. It's certainly unprecedented. I'm not too worried about Michael's side of the house. Terrence's side, kinda. Just we gotta see what happens. But if I were to guess, I think that the nominees initially are gonna be on Michael's side. He's gonna do Jasmine and Monty, and on Terrence's side, Joseph and Kyle or Alyssa, one or the other. I'll say Kyle, I guess. Just he might. I feel like he's talked more with Alyssa than Kyle, so I don't know. that might be part of why he doesn't want to go for Alyssa. But you know, you just you just gotta hold out hope that either Joseph or Turner can win veto and keep themselves safe. That's my official guess. Michael's going to nominate Jasmine and Monty. Terence is going to nominate Joseph and Kyle. All right. That's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.